Welcome back. ISIS preaches 7th century Muslim values, but it's been making great use of 21st century technology, recruiting through social media and participating in psychological warfare, undertaking the despicable act of beheading Americans and posting the video online. But it also exposes its members, giving us a lead on who they are and where they are. Can we use this to hunt them down? Mike Baker is a former CIA covert operations officer. He's founder and president of the global intelligence and security firm Diligence LLC. Mike, good to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What is your sense of ISIS's use of social media, and what can it tell us in terms of giving us the information we need to find these guys?
Well, this is a development that's been going on for years now, and so the idea that ISIS is using social media and chat rooms and other forms of technology to try to reach out, influence impressionable, unemployed, easily influenced individuals. That's what Al-Qaeda's been doing for years. And so the mindset is still the same. And they've learned over the years from what Al-Qaeda and other groups, AQAP and Al-Shabaab and others have been doing to reach out. And the whole purpose of this, of course, as we've talked about in the past, is to try to bring into the fold in particular Westerners, whether they're Americans, whether they're Brits or Germans or French, wherever it may be, North Africa, whatever they can do to recruit those individuals who can provide them with the ability to cross borders more easily than they can. So this is in a sense, it's not something new, but it's a more developed because they've been learning over the years how to do this better.
How optimistic are you in terms of the U.S. or the U.S. and a coalition, per the president, out of the NATO meetings, that we will, in fact, be able to defeat ISIS?
Well, I think if we can do a couple of things, if we can separate the politics here in the U.S. in particular from the operational needs of this. And by that, what I mean is, look, we can all argue that the White House and President Obama was a bit slow to the game in understanding the immediacy of the threat and in dealing with it over quite some time now as this has been building. If we can take those politics and set them aside now, we should be glad that President Obama is now talking about defeating as opposed to managing the problem. So we should get on board with that. Everybody in Congress and in the Senate should get on board with this because it's going to take a united effort. And then what we need to do is essentially what they have been talking about and what we've been talking about for some time is you've got to have the ability to draw in regional partners, not just the French, not just the Canadians, the Brits. We know we can count on them. But what we really need to make this work is the local regional players. We need the Turks. We need the Turkish military and government have got to get on board with this. The Jordanians, the Saudis, and those. If we can draw those in and actually commit forces to the ground, because the problem is if what we do is rely on the Iraqi army for boots on the ground, rely on Shiite militias in Iraq, rely on Syrian opposition, which we now at this point is a muddled mess and includes al-Nusra and others who definitely don't have our interests at heart. If we have to rely on those people for boots on the ground, this is not going to work.
So what are you expecting to hear from the president on Tuesday after he meets with his congressional leaders, and then on Wednesday when he addresses the country? I guess one question that comes up is, are the Turks or the Kurdish army, are they ready for prime time? Can they actually handle this job in such a coalition?
Well, with our support, yes, they can. And our support is the tactical assistance, the intelligence to support, the resources. I believe the president when he says no boots on the ground. I don't think, there's some red lines that he's not going to cross. And I actually believe when John Kerry says that's a red line for the U.S., I think they're very serious about it. But somebody, like I said, somebody other than the Iraqis and Syrian opposition have to get boots on the ground. So what I think will happen and what we'll see is, in part, President Obama trying to walk the dog back here. Obviously, he regrets that gaffe about not having a strategy, and I think what he was implying was, look, we're weighing all our options. But I think in part he's trying to set the table and catch up to where a lot of people have been already and saying that this is an immediate threat. We have to deal with it. We have to be aggressive. But again, if we can't draw in those regional players, airstrikes alone aren't going to accomplish this. And we need to rely on the Jordanians, the Saudis for financing and intelligence. And we need to rely on others to actually put forces together with the Peshmerga, with the Kurds, and to provide that additional support. The problem is, at the end of the day, we can defeat ISIS. If we have that combined effort, if we have the will, we can do that. That's not a problem. But the problem will be what comes in afterwards. Are we strengthening Assad's position? Are we strengthening al-Nusra, in a sense, in Syria? Are we strengthening Shiite militias who, again, are not aligned with our interests? So what happens after this? We've got to be thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead of where we are with just the idea of defeating ISIS.
Yeah, perhaps we'll see the beginnings of that plan and hear about it this Wednesday. Mike, good to talk with you.